Welcome back to Bound and Unraveled. My name is Christina and I'm speaking to you from London, but on a week where I'm going to take two really quick trips to Barcelona for less than 48 hours starting tomorrow, and then to Belfast for a weekend. And I thought that it would be nice for this week when I have two distinct trips to also pair that with a reading mission that I have, which is to read the two books I have left from my reading haul that I did at the Barbican Library a few months ago. It's now been an inordinate amount of time that I've had these books and I have renewed them an embarrassing amount of times. I want to release them back into the pond of the library so that other people can see them, pick them up, and enjoy them. And also so that I can guilt-free go do another haul. So I thought that it would be cool, since these trips are so short, I'm only going to bring one book with me for each one. So I thought we could read each of these together on those trips. So tomorrow I head to Barcelona, and the book I'll be bringing with me in my backpack is The Leviathan by Rosie. This is a historical fiction set in England in 1643 in the midst of civil war, and basically our protagonist Thomas Treadwater is a reluctant soldier and he has to go home because his father has been accused of improper conduct by a new servant. But by the time he gets home, the servant's actually been imprisoned and been accused of witchcraft. He has to kind of figure out what's going on. It's a slow-burning gothic mystery, according to one of the reviews on the inside cover. I was intrigued when I saw it. So I'll start with that there, and we'll do our second book for Belfast. So I will check back in with you later. I have a really early flight tomorrow, so I don't think I'll do a lot of talking to camera between now or when I'm in Barcelona, but I'll check back in with you when we're back in London. Hello from London. I finished Leviathan on Wednesday on the flight home. It was pretty mid. I was hoping for a classic historical fiction about witchcraft, the witch trials, sexism, and feminism with a dash of like the fantasy elements of the Essex Serpent. And instead this ended up being a lot more of a story infused by the paranormal, with major plot points and aspects of the suspense being driven by influences of otherworldly elements. And as I've talked about on this channel, that just doesn't really do it for me. It doesn't appeal to me at all. It approaches witchcraft in a way that's not really my type when it comes to historical fiction. So it ended up being like a 2-star read. I still read it in a day. Like, it was very engaging and I had an absolutely lovely time. Barcelona exceeded my expectations, so on balance, great reading experience. Now our second book is A Theory of Dreaming by Ava Reid. This is the sequel to A Study in Drowning, which I read a couple years ago, and at the time I remember not being particularly blown away by A Study in Drowning, but with time it really quickly became kind of nostalgic in a way, or the atmosphere that Ava Reid conveyed in that book is so powerful that I've been wanting to return to that world for so long. So really quickly, in A Study in Drowning, we're in a fantastical setting, and there's this university student who is studying architecture, but what she really loves is literature. And in particular, she gets the opportunity to go to this remote coastal town and I think redesign or renovate the house of one of her all-time favorite authors. And while she's there, she meets another student who's a literature student, and they have like this weird tension/rivalry, if I remember well. And then there's also like the crotchety author bumbling around. And what really struck me about that book, and I think Ava Reid did phenomenally was create an atmosphere in that setting. I read it, I think, in the spring, and it was this coastal town where things are chilly, not quite cold, but like the kind of cold that always gets into your bones. And it's by the sea, so there's that constant smell of salt, and then the house is also kind of falling apart, so it's also kind of like damp. I remember having like the smell of salt stuck in my nose just from reading it. I don't know how else to put that. I'm excited for that in A Theory of Dreaming. So far, it's more of an urban context. We're meeting our characters at the university. It's winter, so it's definitely a lot more icy than watery. I'm hopeful that maybe we'll get to follow our characters back to outside of the city, and I'm still kind of warming up to them and trying to remember what happened in the last book, so it's taking me a second to get into it, even though I started. And it's easy to read, but I'm not loving it so far, but I'm excited to really spend some time with this. Tomorrow morning I leave for Belfast, so I'm only bringing a rucksack, and I know that I will be doing some book shopping when I'm in Northern Ireland, so instead of bringing this book, I'm going to read on my iPad, since I need to bring that anyway for university. And this is where I will do another PSA for my public library, because the public library gave me the physical copy, and then also Libby, wonderful Libby, means I have the book also downloaded it on my Kindle app on my iPad. We're gonna read this while in Northern Ireland, so I will check back in with you later, and I will see you tomorrow in Belfast.
It's been 4 weeks since you called, and I've been waiting here for you all along. I've been waiting here for you all along. Where you been? Where did you go? I wonder if you found what you're looking for. Wonder if you found what you're looking for. I hope it's not too late. I want you back here with me. We never should have said it's better this way. I'd rather be with you than someone I don't know. Now it's like we're living in two separate worlds. Come on back to me. Say that you won't go. I can't cope without you, and I wanna hold you close. Say that you won't go. Say that you won't go. It's been so cold without you here. We barely said goodbye before you disappeared. It's been so cold without you here. I'm not gonna lie, don't know what I'd do without you. Maybe we could try to figure out a way to put our past aside. I've realized I only want you. I hope it's not too late. I want you back here with me. We never should have said it's better this way.
I am checking in with you from London. Belfast and Derry were amazing, truly lovely, and a great trip. However, not a ton of reading of A Theory of Dreaming done on that trip, because I had already packed my iPad, and then, and this is a classic case of like hubris, folly, and all my sins, I pulled out the iPad from my backpack to show off to you that I was bringing my iPad with Libby. And with the book downloaded, and then I left it on my bed. So I downloaded the book on my phone to try to read a little bit, but I don't know about you, reading on my phone never feels like something I really want to do. So I mostly read like 75% of this when I got back. And I will say I really felt overall like this was such a forced sequel that should not have existed. And I don't know why it does. Like, it doesn't really do anything for the series, and it loses everything that I think made A Study in Drowning good. So I mentioned that the atmosphere of A Study in Drowning was excellent, and I think it's one of the things that Ava Reid overall is outstanding in. And for whatever reason, this really lost it. I think part of that was the setting. Like, yes, it was an urban environment, and yes, it's winter, beginning of spring, but there are ways to do that that can feel compelling, and this totally missed the mark on that. It just felt like passing attempts at it. I know Ava Reid's writing from other other books, and like this really I wouldn't have guessed was hers. The second thing I really liked about A Study in Drowning was the way that the characters were built up, and the way that she described their relationship was so lovely to see these two people treat each other as equals. And in this book, Effie, who's the female main character, completely loses the plot and any sense of agency, and then Preston also seems to stop believing that she has any agency, which made it a really frustrating read. Like they both became completely insufferable, and there are ways to write characters who are going through emotional turmoil in a way that is still engaging and makes you empathize with them, because I think that that can be really important. But this made me want to throw my book across the room repeatedly and wish that neither of these characters had ever come into my mind. Like they were just so annoying. I found it really difficult to root for them, and the relationship completely fell apart. Like there was just no communication going on at all, which is really frustrating to read because there was no need for that based on what I remember of the first book. And then finally, the plot. What was the plot? If I remember well from the first one, I don't remember being particularly bought into any of the fantasy world building elements. I remember that kind of feeling like it was in the background for me. In this book, it was really in the foreground, and I think it suffered for that as a result because it was just way too much lore of the history and of the fantasy elements, where there didn't feel like there was any driving challenge or uniting thread line to keep us reading and to keep us caring. I don't think I ever finished a chapter and was like, oh, I need to continue reading because I need to know what happens next. I just kept reading in the hopes that it would get good, and it never really did. And by the end, when I saw the resolution, I was like, okay, I didn't care at all. And none of the major relationship issues or problems with the characters felt like they were resolved in a meaningful way. It kind of felt like, okay, now I've decided to wrap it up, so now I'm going to give them a resolution. But not in a way that made any sense. I will bring the video to close here. I know I kind of was harsh on both of the books that I read, but the two reading experiences were lovely, and I had a great time in Barcelona, Belfast, Derry, and of course in London. So I'm still glad that you came along with me and that we got to read those books. I think it's possible to have a pleasant reading experience while not enjoying a book, if that makes sense. And lovely places definitely help with that, and so does getting to rant about it later on camera. So thanks for being here, and I will catch you in the next video.